Who's that? Oh, she is. Oh, man.
Thank you for attending our family dynamics tonight. As you know, as we do a course each week, we go over a section of dynamics and this next and we roll. But in case there's any new people here or you've got a new support with you, we're going to go over briefly the first two dimensions, two dynamics, and the last one. The first one is homeostasis, and then boundaries is second, and then third is role, and then the last is you. And would anyone like to read the first section on homeostasis so we can know what that's about? Go for it.
Thermodynamics make it just done. Homeostasis. The notion of homeostasis was first introduced to family therapy by Jackson, 1957. Purposes that families tend to establish a sense of balance or stability and resist any attempts to alter this balance. Unfortunately, a family's stability does not always reflect a healthy underlying structure. For example, an indicated chronic alcohol abuse chronic alcohol abuse can represent a primary, yet unhealthy component of a family's sense of balance.
Did everyone understand that? Our homeostasis is what we all connect us all together. How we all intertwine with each other and live with each other and communicate. And boundaries. Mary, if you'd like to read that. Boundaries? What is start with understanding.
Understanding the boundaries and separate individuals with the field and the field and the boundaries to separate the field from the outside world. Rigid, impermeable boundaries between a field and the outside world are associated with family isolation, especially from outside resources, which could assist the family in resolving its problems. In contrast, excessively permeable boundaries can destroy family unity and cohesiveness, preventing the family from functioning as an effective unit. In general, alcoholic families are characterized by extremely rigid boundaries, which isolate family members from the outside community. Therapeutic interventions must therefore involve restructuring the boundaries which are maintaining alcohol abuse.
Is that understandable? Okay. I'm sorry that the rules part was cut off, so I'm going to read it from the book I have. All families have rules to help organize family life. Some rules are overt, such as the exact time on a curfew or not talking with your mouth full. Other rules are covert. These usually are the unspoken rules that govern interpersonal behavior. Examples of covert rules in healthy families include ignoring grandma's memory problems or giving large displays of affection when people come and go. And in healthy families, both overt and covert roles tend to be present, logical, and consistent and designed to promote growth. In contrast, rules in addictive family systems tend to be arbitrary, illogical, inconsistent, and or punitive. So now that we went over these things, we'll go more into the whole next and our focus tonight. I want to be clear that all families have family dynamics. All families have a homeostasis. All have families. All have roles. All have roles. It just depends if it's healthy or if it's unhealthy. So when you look into the addicted family, they're unhealthy or like boundaries are rigid. People always feel nervous, like they're walking on eggshells, or they're always an issue, or they're scared. And then we're going to go into the role now. In this sheet that I handed out, we're going to explain this first. This is an activity we'll do. It goes through each of the roles that we play. And then there's the chemical dependent and the chief innate work. And the outer circle is the outside that you see, all the emotions and characteristics. The inside of the circle is what's really going on. So would anyone like to read the dependent?
Work.
The
Chemically dependent? Oh. The alcoholic family member.
On the sheet.
How is it dependent?
The alcohol family member, or that could be addicted family.
She just read that.
Yeah,
I didn't have one.
oh. You want me to read the next one?
Would you like to?
Alright. Enabler. Usually the spouse who does everything possible to make the drinking spouse stop except what works. Confronting the user or leaving the relationship. Enabling behavior is habitual. It will endure even after separation from the dependent unless it is treated.
Family hero. The family member who sees and hears what is happening and takes responsibility for the family's pain by becoming successful and popular. The hero is often the oldest child in the family. He or she quickly asserts his or her alliance to fulfill their spouse and is a good child who becomes a stable source of dependability in the chaotic family. Now, there's a scapegoat.
Family scapegoat. The family member who rejects the family system. The scapegoat is often the second child in the family. He or she gets the family's attention by developing angry and defiant behavior. I know him well.
Would anyone like to read the last child?
The family member who quietly and unobtrusively withdraws from the family system. The lost child is typically the third child in the birth order, who is quickly overwhelmed by his or her older sibling. He or she gives up and tends to be a follower and to be isolated both physically and psychologically.
And the mascot is the last one. Whoever likes to read that.
Mascot. The mascot is typically the youngest child in the family. He or she tends to play the clown to relieve family tension, relieve his or her pain, and gain parental attention.
Thank you very much. And I want to point out that it's usually, let's say like 4 children here. Sometimes there's not 4 children in the family. So that means they can have multi-roles. Like the middle child is usually the scapegoat, but they can also be the lost child as well. Or they can also have, I guess someone can have all 3 roles with the middle child. Or sometimes the middle child has been the hero because the part of the first one has been the mascot. It doesn't have to go in that range, that's just usually how it does. And then we're going to go over the second form. And would anyone like to go over chief enabler / caretaker? My reading would be outer motions, inner motions, and at the bottom it lists the importance of each role.
Okay, I'll use the chief enabler caretaker.
Okay.
Okay. You want to read outer, inner, and role?
Yes, I'm going to need these sections.
Okay. So outer role, luxurious, reasonable, pleading, fragile, self-pitying, manipulative, super responsible, walks the right shell, accusing, self-blaming, fragile, martyr, rescuer. Inside, feeling pain, anger, fear, guilt, deception, and inadequate. The role is to provide responsibility, keep order, and keep up appearances.
Has anyone ever felt like they had to be a caretaker
Mm.
in my family?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen it be under outside and inside emotions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one I'd like us to do is the family hero. Who would like to do that?
I'll read that. Successful, overachiever, outgoing, approval-seeking, altogether, develops independent life away from family, intense, superficial, workaholic, special, hardworking, super responsible, and then the inner is pain, loneliness, hurt, confusion, inadequacy, anger, and the role is to provide self-worth and dignity to family.
And the letters are someone who's independent, and on the outside they can be passive, apologetic, hidden, quiet, sexually inadequate, superficial, perfection. They can be fragile, charming, blaming. They can feel hostile, angry, aggressive and rigid and grandiose, and very self-righteous. But on the inside, they're experiencing pain, guilt, shame, fear, hurt, and anger. Would anyone like to read the mascot next?
The mascot, on the outside, is superficial, joking, outgoing, family pet, hyperactive, little man / little lady, fragile, clowny, with a nervous laugh, humorous, anything to attract attention. But on the inside is pain, fear, loneliness, confusion, insecurity, and discontent. And the role is to provide fun and humor.
Anyone like to read the scapegoat?
Scapegoat. Strong fear value, sullen, defiant, delinquency, indifferent, blaming, unplanned pregnancy, chemical use, discipline problems, acting out, hostile, withdrawal. And inside is pain, rejection, loneliness, anger, hurt, and fear. The role is to provide distraction and focus.
And the last one, the last child?
Quiet, aloof, insecure, imaginary friends, walks on eggshells, uncomplaining, self-independent, overweight, man who's good, loner, withdrawn. Inner feelings are pain, hurt, anger, inadequate, insecure. Role is to offer relief.
And can anyone point out similar emotions either on the outside or inside that's going on in all of these? Yes.
Pain is in every one.
Everyone's experiencing pain. That's the one intrinsic and physical feeling outside. Something else that we go through in I think you're down season. Is it doesn't have to become independent. It's not super dysfunctional. There are some families who have someone who's mentally ill, or someone who's having a co-occurring disorder. They have a vision with as well as a mental illness. And it's difficult to deal with, and then this can become dysfunctional. But then again, like I said, it can be a healthy healing system. So what I want to do next is, if anyone would like to share, maybe a hero, a mascot, or a scapegoat, the experiences that they've had, or the know anyone who is. Because I can certainly say I was the lost child in my family. And being an only child, I was actually all roles, but that was the one I stood out the most. Yep.
It's kind of, I was the only child as well, and I wonder which one of these roles I was, and then I was reading if I can kind of relate to playing the part of almost all of them at one time or not at the same time, but you know, at one time or another.
We also play these roles outside of life, especially when they touch so strong on their personality. Does anyone have who possibly think they are any of these or multiple of these in place of an outside role that was on? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I'm pretty sure in my family I was maybe a couple, but primarily I think I was the last child. I was the youngest, but I was the third, so that kind of worked. And yeah, I carried a lot of this stuff into adulthood and into my outside life. It's still very hard for me to kind of break out of my. I tend to be a loner. I tend to be. It's hard for me to reach out to people. And I had just about everything on here, the overweight, the demanding, the super independent, and it's very hard for me to ask for help. You know, still to this day.
Does that become a lot of overwhelming? What kind of work do you do?
Well, my main job for many years was retail grocery. But now I'm in the recovery field.
So you pretty much being going by yourself, opposed to asking questions.
Yeah, I'm really in a position now, though. I mean, in the other job, it was easy to do, to get it to be independent, and it was kind of encouraged. Now what I'm doing, you know, being in the addiction field is a whole new thing. It's forcing me to have to ask for help, and you know, I mean, we can't there's no way to do that kind of job without cooperating with people. You know, it's very hard to get autonomous, I find.
And I get that. I
That's
worked
better.
in through local court,
Yeah.
and my family hero came out a lot in that because people would come to me and say, so what should we do? And I go, I'm not the manager.
Right.
You tell me.
Just do it. Simply do it. And, you know, so what I'm doing now, I think, kind of forces me out of that a little bit. And I have to be able to connect with people, which is scary, but it's, you know, I see it as a life, you know, a change, a growing experience. Because I do have to step outside of that comfort zone. I gotta, you know, introduce myself to people. Because of this program, I have to go through things like network, which just scares the living shit out of me. I hate that. And I found that real hard. Because I put myself out there, you know. And inside, I still have that. Okay?
You think you can do it?
Yeah, I can do it. You know, take a deep breath.
Relate to what you're saying about when you're working in a position and sometimes it's difficult to do the whole that you're in, affect how you're feeling or how you're acting. You know, maybe we have personal.
I think for me, it's being raised by my grandparents with my aunts and uncles, like my youngest aunt and uncle, they're like 10 years older than me. And then being raised with them and maybe, you know, my cousins, but then also being raised with my mom, where I'm the oldest one, you know, 12 years older than my youngest, or my oldest brother, 12 years older than him. So when I lived there, I was the big sister, you know, and I was the only child for a lot of years. But then when I lived with my grandparents, I wasn't the only child. I had my cousins were there, my uncles, so I was like, I think I experienced different things in each, you know, going back and forth, you know. It was really, really weird.
Please study for that type of family system because there are even divorced families who create two new family units for the children. And then when you live with your grandparents and you live with your regular parents,
Yeah. Right.
little parents. So we can go back and forth. And what happens though is when we go back and forth, we easily fit back into that role. And that's what I mean by we can have multiple roles. And it becomes part of our personality.
Yeah. Because I had more freedom with my grandparents and more structure, you know, with my parents.
Even like that with both parents.
Yeah.
That's why they have a chief enabler. That, in my experience, was my mother. She was the one who handled everything. She was the one who took care of everything. And then her two husbands she had were addicts and alcoholics. So there was always an issue circle around them. And then she would make, oh, there's some problem with Dana, we have to focus on that. Or, oh, what's Dana doing? Dana, you need to help with all this. Or the next stuff, oh, she's great, everyone pays attention to little Dana. Can you relate that to any of what you were sharing about when you were doing your parents? And then with your
Even though my grandmother, she was the enabler, she was my strength though. She kept me from not staying, she kept me focused, you know, when she was there. You know, I had my teenage years. One summer I played around, joined the army, so you know that I didn't want to go the wrong way, so I went. And even though she's an enabler, I still joined the service and did all that. And then when she passed away, it took me a few years, probably like 5 years after she passed away, that I kept looking for her in my other family, and I couldn't find her. And I tried everything. I went to school, I did all kinds of things, and I still didn't have that one thing that I was looking for my grandmother. And then I thought I found it, but it was with the wrong family. And then I started abusing drugs, and then I got in trouble. And then I said, well, you know what, I need to, I don't know, it's just, I have 10 aunts and uncles. Yeah, that's, I would say, even though I would, for myself, and I would like to say that, a family hero. I would like to say that, a family hero,
Sounds like we
you know, yeah, I would say something like that, because I did have a lot of loneliness, and, you know, it says in there, growing up. I'm a hard worker, I'm a workaholic, you know. I don't know about an overachiever.
No, I just wanted to ask you something. Do the role have to go with the, like, from the mascot, it says the role is to provide fun and humor, and for my instance, like, I came up in the house where my father was alcoholic and an abuser, and my mother was a codependent, right? I became a runaway in a very early age, but what I noticed about in my life in the street, all these things as the mascot, not necessarily, but like superficial, joking, outgoing, hyperactive, clowning around, but deep down inside I had the pain, the fear, the loneliness, but it says to provide fun and humor. But my role at home, when I was there, was to like just, you know, stay away. It was just me and my mother's relationship. I was trying to avoid my father, period.
That sounds like a lost child at home, but I want to end the group with something you just actually pointed out. Family units are not just mom and dad. These family units when we work, in class, with our friends. Family is defined by two people married and 3 kids. So we do have roles, that's why I mentioned we have roles outside the home. With your friends, it's a good mascot. Yet you are still feeling the same feelings when you're at home or when you're outside, because that's still who you are inside. Does anyone have any other questions or anything they want to add before we end? No? Okay, well, thank you for attending.